Hello, everyone. Welcome to Coffee, Kegs, and Kriegsspiel. I'm your host, Marshall, and I am coming to you from the IKS headquarters as I get my act together here, running a little slow, but it's very good to see you all here today. Welcome to the show. And today we're going to talk about a big problem in Kriegsspiel called Minutiae. At least that's what I call it. Everyone knows minutiae is like the little things, right? And you've all heard the phrase death by a thousand paper cuts. Well, we're going to talk about that and why minutiae is pretty much a bad thing and what you can do to kind of curb it or avoid it in your games and your gaming systems. I want to start by giving you a little backstory here. Yesterday I played a really cool game of Kriegspiel. It could actually be one of the best games of Kriegsspiel I've ever played, if not the best. And it was a system, and I don't know the precise mechanics of the system, but it was a system done by Justin, who is in Australia. So he has a hard time playing games with us because of the time zone difference. He's literally opposite many of our players in Europe, and he's still several hours away from many of us here in the United States. But he actually stayed up all night, as far as I can tell, to do a School of the Empire and to put together a game. And he ran what was a fantastic game. Like it felt right, like literally everything felt the way it should. It felt like an actual battle. We had this really cool scenario where I ought to just kind of move the pieces off. But we had this really cool scenario. And hello to Jan, who is here. And I'll just give you a quick little overview of the scenario. Let's see here, and I want to erase my little question mark. All right, and I'll just tell you what the overall situation was. So the basic problem was blue, which was representing the French forces, had to hold a pocket here from Masloud to Chlum over to Lippe and Sistowitz. They are expecting reinforcements from this direction down here, Tresowitz, but the reinforcements are not coming for several hours. Meanwhile, Red is approaching with a pretty sizable force, at least equal in size, possibly larger, from these directions. To the north, this territory up here is out of bounds, so we don't have to worry about anything to the north of here that's out of bounds. However, down here to the south, we have to worry about it. So it's myself and another old hat, Peter Freyr. If you watched last week's episode, Peter Freyr was on with me, and uh, we um, we had to team up against a variety of young pups in the IKS, some of them with more experience than others. Notably, there was Crusader was a good player. We had Sam Miller as the enemy commander. Sam Miller is pretty legendary in the group because he tends to be aggressive and does unpredictable things. He even has his own meme, which right here is goes full Sam Miller, gets like he all game and breaks the scenario. But anyway, Sam Miller didn't break anything. He just did a really good job yesterday, and he was characteristically, aggressive as he needed to be when attacking against a clock. The battle went pretty well. I was of the impression that we were winning pretty much the whole time. And we were holding red. We held them here. We held them around here, at least for a while. There was some back and forth here. Eventually, we had to give that up to red, and they kept pushing this way. I was a cavalry commander. I ended up having to sacrifice my entire command right here on this ridge to hold them while reinforcements from over here around Masloud came all the way down to kind of hold the position. In the end, they were able to push us back. They attacked around Sistowitz, and let me see here. I kind of want to just illustrate it maybe with a different color. But they basically pushed our line back like this. and ultimately it was ruled to be a tactical Austrian victory or coalition victory, uh, with the French kind of showing up a little bit late. And the ruling being, well, the French can't, resume the offensive, but they're not defeated. Okay, so that's kind of very typical of how Kriegsspiel results go, where you have a situation where all of the nobody wins. Clearly, there's no decisive victory. It's a frustrating thing for us, but it's actually how battles and wars went. That's why wars go on for years and years and years, and why dogs keep fighting all the time, because you don't get a decisive victory at any point in the war until late sometimes. Anyway, I digress. So the thing is, the only problem I had with the game, and I didn't have very many problems, like it felt really good, but the game was long and moved a little bit slow for my taste. In particular, it was quite long. It was a 6-hour game. I didn't keep track of how many turns we completed. We were able to play pretty close to real time, meaning that we spent 6 hours in front of our computers, and about 6 hours of battle time had elapsed roughly, which is pretty decent. That's a good metric. Nonetheless, we were running 15-minute turns, and so I felt it was kind of slow. So why was it slow? Well, one of the problems is I think that there was minutia involved. During School of the Umpire, Justin was rolling 2 dice for every unit under certain circumstances. I think there was a morale die in the system. I know he was rolling for morale to recover broken units and things like that. And that brings us to one of the problems that we have with Kriegsspiel is morale. Not morale, I'm sorry, minutia. My goodness, I can't. My brain's going a mile a minute. I'm gonna change this here so you can look at my handsome visage, because there's nothing to put on the map. Why is minutia a problem? Well, minutia slows things down, and in fact, actually, we do have a meme for it, because in the K22 module we have memes for everything. Let's check out the meme just for fun. We rolled for combat, yes, but what about ammo and morale? Um, One of these things that happens is people, especially who are new to Kriegsspiel, are like, wow, this system, I can model anything I want. Whatever's important to me as an umpire, I can model that. And that's the really genius thing about Kriegsspiel. So if you want to model troop quality, okay, you model troop quality. These blocks are better than these blocks, or whatever. You can absolutely do that. And in fact, we do that pretty much every game. If you want to model supply status, well, we have that too. We have that literally baked into these pieces. You take these pieces and you flip them over, and boom, we have markers on the back which can be used to indicate things like ammo, morale, manpower, and so on. We can even change the size of the blocks. So we have all these things. You want to put skirmishers out? We have a thing that you can put skirmishers out. We got all of that. The problem with each of those things is when you add another complication to the system, what you end up doing is it takes more time. Yes, it's one more die roll, but when you have a whole bunch of blocks, that adds up. So in a way, it's kind of death by a thousand paper cuts. If you give players a lot of units, I've found that the optimum number of units for a player is 5 or 6. You can go as low as 4, although they'll feel a little cheated if you only give them 4 units to push. 5 or 6 seems to be right. Anything more than 6, and they start wanting to split units off and said, "Oh, I'll send this brigade down this road and this brigade down this road," and it creates a mess for the umpires, and mistakes at the umpire table become increasingly likely. And they lose command and control of their units, and again, it slows the game down. So new Kriegsspiel umpires, or somebody who wants to run a game, they want to give players a lot of blocks. They want to model ammo and morale, and they even say, well, I want to model the weapon quality. These weapons reload faster. These weapons have longer range. These weapons are more accurate, whatever that may be. They'll do things like, well, and here's a recent one. Let's do commander attributes. Let's create a character sheet for each commander and consult that. Now, there are certain circumstances where that might be fun, particularly in the role-playing aspects of some of these campaigns that we do. I don't think that's a horrible idea, but in the context of a classic Kriegsspiel, it is a horrible idea because, again, it's more minutia. We don't have time for all of these things. And I think the worst part about it is it doesn't pay. If a person thinks I'm wrong, I say go ahead and do it. Go ahead and model all these things. Give each player 15, 20 blocks, whatever. Go ahead and model ammo and morale. Go ahead and model character attributes, create character sheets, any of these things that you want to do. Just put it all out there and then see how long it takes you to run the game. You see, when we play Kriegspiel as a game, one of the problems we run into is the clock. We're playing it as a hobby. We're not cadets in a Prussian military academy where we are captive and we can't leave and we have to play. And if the sun sets, well, we're going to come back tomorrow and continue the war game because there are important lessons that you as cadets have to learn. No, we are hobbyists. We are people with, other things going on. Some of us own dogs that have to be walked and fed and petted, as you can tell, right? We all have these other things that we have to do. So our game time is 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, starting to push it, 8 hours. If you have a spouse or whatever, hey, the War Department's going to say, you're recalled, buddy. It's time to issue rations to the whole family, whatever that may be. So these things happen and they intrude on our time. So if you want to complete a battle or fight a battle to resolution, you have to balance the desire to model all these different characteristics with the time budget of the players. Also, more players massively multiplies the length of time that a game is going to take. I remember the very first ever Kriegsspiel I played. It was me and one other guy. We were in the basement of this office building. And the other group we were playing against was like 3 or 4 guys, and they were on an upper floor. And the umpire had to go up and down stairs. And we played for, I don't know, like 8 hours. I was lucky I had a television available, and I was able to watch a football game or two. And during that whole time, we completed maybe 2 hours of game time. We had literally just made contact with the enemy, and we're getting into position to battle when it's like, hey, it's time to go home, folks. We've been here for ages. And that was the end of our game session. So that's the problem with minutia. The more things that you add to a game that you want to model, the slower your game is going to run. Now, there are clever ways to speed it up. I like talking about the K22 system because certain things are kind of baked in, where you group all of the units that are fighting together and you roll a single die based on certain characteristics, and then you apply a die roll modifier to the roll. And that allows you to not have to throw buckets of dice and say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Sorry, I was just scrolling over to the K22 dice, and instead I got my big head in the way. I'll turn my big head off, the talking head, and just show you, I have all these dice. Now, these are legacy dice. They're going away. They're being replaced by these, and there may be still 1 or 2 others. I'm actually trying, again, to simplify the system so it plays a lot faster. And that's what you want to do. You want to simplify things as much as you can. And as long as you have the essential elements of Kriegsspiel present in the game, you're running a Kriegsspiel, and it's going to be fun. You're running a legit Kriegsspiel. Is it double blind? Is it umpired? Is there order delay? Are there delays in implementations? Things like that. If you're doing that, you're pretty much playing a Kriegsspiel. And so you don't have to feel bad, and you don't have to worry about the rules or what system or anything like that. So whatever is important to you, though, you're going to model or emphasize in your system of play. So if, for example, morale is important to you, maybe that's the Kriegsspiel problem. Hey, you're commanding an army. The army has suffered a string of defeats. Their morale is very low. And you basically have to baby your units to get them to do anything. How do you handle that against a force that has very high morale? Now, maybe to balance this scenario, the other force is very small compared to yours. but your force, it's going to crumble if you have a sustained fight. How do you shepherd these men? And the morale would be a thing that you would want to model in such a case. But it just depends on how you want to set up your scenario, what you think the players should be practicing or drilling or learning, or what you think is just interesting. Model that, but then you don't have to model the other things, right? If the game is somehow this scenario in which you're looking into morale, there's no need to keep track of ammunition. After all, your men probably aren't even going to stand long enough to fire all their ammunition. So don't worry about the ammunition. Don't worry about the character attributes, right? Unless the officers are going to meet each other in the middle of the field and duel in place of a battle, some sort of David versus Goliath kind of situation or whatever, the character attributes of your officers are absolutely irrelevant. And don't give players tons of blocks. Players have just as much fun with fewer blocks as they do with a lot of blocks. I have never heard a player complain, I've got too few blocks, this thing is boring. No. Once they get their head in the game, they have a great time even pushing a couple blocks. That was me yesterday. I was reduced to really commanding only a few blocks. I had a great time doing it. So don't worry about things like that. Remember, players feel more satisfied if you can play the game to its conclusion. So don't be afraid to change a scenario or to pare down the forces, reduce the number of blocks they push, or to do away with certain complexities. Is weather really going to be a big deal? Why are you rolling dice for weather? You know, things like that. Eliminate the minutia, and you should have a faster, smoother running game. All right, I want to take a look at the YouTube. There's a bunch of you on there, and you're saying hi, and I want to say hi back because I'm just a motor mouth right now. But real quick here, let's take a look. We've got Jan is here. Hello, Jan. Good to see you. Blaze Trail is here, and Achilles is here. And Jan points out that the Emperor's dogs demand attention, and boy, do they. They do that frequently. Yes, they do, Achilles. Achilles says the aspects you model are the arguments that the designers make for what they consider to be critical factors of a particular era. The trick is always the balance of playability and simulation, I think. And then he adds Jan likes dueling. Achilles is referring to our Red versus Blue Perpetual campaign, which is a Napoleonic kind of campaign that we're in the year 1805 right now, I believe, and we're going to play it all the way up to the modern era. But it's more role playing now than Kriegsspiel, but it's just a heck of a lot of fun. But you're right, Achilles, and you could get a game like what's the North Africa game that takes like forever to play, campaign for North Africa or whatever I think it's called. And the reason the reason why only probably a dozen people on the planet have ever actually played it to completion is because it's this monster campaign game and it models all of this in minutia. And unless you have an incredible volume of time and a lot of patience and friends that are just as into it as you are, you're probably not going to see the end of that game. How many times has somebody taken that game out, set it up only to put it away later? And people do that with lesser games. How many games of Monopoly get played to finish? Not all of them. So when you think about that, if you want your Kriegsspiel to run to a conclusion point, and by the way, on conclusion points is we rarely, in fact, we pretty much never run Kriegsspiels to the bitter end. We run them until an outcome has been reached or a particular time or something has been reached, some victory condition. And then we just call it. And that's why we oftentimes have Kriegsspiels where there's no clear victory. But that's because a Kriegsspiel just takes what's happening in one little sector of a battlefield or one area. And again, once the lesson or the objective is taught or achieved, we're done. There's no sense playing additional turns. Plus, again, we're balancing the lesson of the Kriegsspiel. Remember, Kriegsspiel is really a training exercise, but we also play it as a game. But you're balancing that with the time that the players have to invest in the game. And if you have too many long games, you're not going to have people who come back to play. That's why the sweet spot, 2 hours, scratches the itch pretty well. 4 hours is probably gosh darn ideal. If it's a really cool game and you're at 4 hours, players will want to play longer. But sometimes the game drags. And so if the game is slow and there's a lot of minutia after 4 hours, for me, I'm done. I'm ready to check out. The only reason I stuck around in yesterday's game, which, well, I'm not going to quit a game that I start, but the reason I was pretty happy with yesterday's game is despite the fact that to me it kind of took a little longer, I just think it was a masterpiece of gaming. It was a masterpiece of Kriegsspiel. The scenario was amazing. The ebb and the flow was brilliant. I think the system worked really well. I just think combat resolution, turn resolution was too slow. And I'm planning to talk to Jason and share some tips and ideas with him that might help him. In other words, I'm telling him you need to steal some mechanics from the K22 system and incorporate those into your system, and then I think we're gonna hit that stride. So pretty good. Um, okay, they're talking about the campaign in here. The red versus blue perpetual campaign. Since I'm kind of at the end of my point here, to summarize, is just basically minutia is a game killer, and you want to limit it. It does not pay. If anything, it's actually counterproductive to have lots and lots of minutia in your game. You may think it's going to be fun. You may think it's going to give someone an advantage. I've seen it happen where people give these orders. These are actual orders, or this is an actual order. Advance to where I'm in range of them and I can shoot them, but they can't shoot back at me. Okay, yeah, we're just going to be out there with a little, marker. I have the surveyor run to the enemy line, and we're going to measure, run the tape measure out there. Let's see how far we are. No, it just didn't work that way in real life, and you don't want to be doing that in Kriegsspiel. So there you have that. Now, I have a question. Can you balance the detail in part by how close the opposing forces start to each other? Hey, I think that's a great point and a great question. A lot of our Kriegsspiels, we start the opposing forces some distance from each other. And so about half of the battle is actually maneuvering to find the enemy, maneuvering to contact, then jockeying for position, and then finally committing to the actual battle. To me, that's actually the most fun part of the Kriegsspiel. I love that even more than the combat part. I love the march to contact. I don't know why. It's my favorite part. There are other people who are the other way around. But it takes a long time. What I typically do is I start the forces apart and then I have them say, what's your route of march to particular objective X, let's say. And I have them draw it on a map and then I move the pieces until they get to contact. And if you don't do that, the players will start chatting with each other because they get bored. They start sending dispatches, or they'll see, oh, I see some dust, whatever. And they'll send a dispatch. And all that does is create more work for the Empire and slow the game down. We have a meme for it. Here we go. When you send a dispatch to all commanders on your side, telling them you see dust, this is why it takes so long to get a reply. Because we don't deliver that as umpires. At least veteran umpires are like, okay, that one goes in the trash. Okay, we're just not going to. Not a circular because you see dust, whatever. But anyway, I think Achilles is onto something here because if you start the forces in contact with each other, you eliminate that long march to battle, which can save you up to half of your game time, or even, it saves you game time as much as half of your game time. And that allows you then to take more time to resolve turns to mess with minutia. So yeah, you can do that, but remember, the players are sitting around on their rear waiting for that next report, and they're just sitting there. You can watch the recording. I live streamed it to YouTube yesterday, and I'm just sitting there, sitting there, sitting there. And in fact, because I had a late night the night before, I even went and took a nap between one of the turns. I seriously did. I went and took a cat nap and came back, and I eat meals. I have time to do all this because that's the gap of time between when I submit my orders and when I get a report back. So, you kind of want to tighten that up, and the better you tighten that up, the better the experience is going to be for everyone. Plus, if you have a more efficient system, you don't have to work as hard. Why do you want to work harder than you have to produce the same return on investment? So there you go. Okay, what are your thoughts on having more minutia in a play-by-post game? Yes, that's the place to do it. That's where you play with your minutia. Play by post, just so you know, play by email or play by mail, whatever, where players submit turns and then maybe they submit one turn a day or one turn a week, and then the umpire has that extra time to model all of that. That's the place to do it. If you really want to get complicated, do that in a play-by-post game, but not in a live game. Because in a play-by-post game, everybody comes back, reads reports, and issues orders at their leisure. So the umpire can afford to incorporate more minutia. But they can't do it in a live face-to-face game. So great comment, Blaze. And I think, yeah, that's the place to do it. All right, I was going to talk a little bit about the red versus blue campaign, part to kind of advertise it, but I'm kind of out of time to do that. But I do want to say that Justin, the same guy who ran this battle yesterday, is going to be doing uh, he's going to be doing sort of a spin-off campaign from the red versus blue main. It's going to last about 4 months, and your opportunity to get into that game is coming up here in the next 1 or 2 weeks or so. So you want to hit the Kriegsspiel server. You want to go to kriegsspiel.org. I'll open up the web page and join our Discord from the link that's there. My internet seems slow. Here it is. You want to click Discord and go right into our Discord, and there you go. Well, it's going to take me to the app, but whatever. Okay, you want to join the Discord and get in on that game, and it's a really cool game. It's mostly role playing, but there is some Kriegsspiel stuff going on. Obviously, there's battles and other things. And if you like what we're doing here, I would encourage you to support us on Patreon, Coffee, Kegs, and Kriegsspiel. Your support helps the IKS and it helps me, and we are able to continue producing all of this stuff. When I finish with the K22 system, I'm targeting the end of May. I'm going to try to get that out free for everybody who is a patron and patron, whatever. But we have content. A final update, however, I have to warn you, I'm going to be gone the next 2 Sundays. I am on vacation. Oh, look at this. I've got my talking head on the screen, and you can't see the things I'm showing you. What a loser. Oh, my gosh. All right, here we go. Here is Coffee, Kegs, and Kriegsspiel, and K22 coming, and you can watch the video. And again, just all this stuff here. But yeah, we're going to be gone. I'm going to be gone for the next 2 Sundays, unfortunately. I'll try to get something up there to just kind of help scratch the itch, but I am going to be gone. And again, one more time, the IKS, kriegsspiel.org. You want to click on Discord here, and that will take you to our Discord, and then you can get involved with us and you can participate in the campaign. There's no cost to you or anything like that, so don't worry about it. Just come join and have a great time with us. And there's all kinds of other stuff you can do. We even have merch, all of that. So there you go. Let's check out our store. There we go. We have these really cool hoodies. Those are by far the most popular thing that we have. I love mine. They're great. Anyway, well, there you have it, folks. That is it. Let me put my talking head back so I can say goodbye to everyone. I want to thank you all for being here. Let me check the YouTube one last time for final, questions or comments. And there we go. No, we're good. I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here. I want to invite you to join the IKS and be part of this awesome experience. And I'll be back in 3 Sundays from now. My headset just gave out. But on the 3rd Sunday from now, I will be back. Okay? So we will see you soon. And thanks for being here. All right, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.